All right, so we're going to take this cross product of A cross H. So here's our acceleration vector. There's the A. And then we're going to take a cross product of that with the H vector, and actually we're going to replace that with the R squared scalar multiplied with U cross U prime. So it's all of that. All right. So we get all of that stuff now. So now look at this here. We have R squared and R squared that cancel out. So that's kind of neat. And then we're just left with this negative big GM out front, along with U crossed with, parentheses, U crossed with U prime. All right, so now we're going to try to figure out what is this U cross with U cross with U prime simplify to. About this cross product here. First of all, let's think about what's this U vector doing. Remember, this is the unit vector pointing in the direction from the sun to the planet. The way we drew it, the planet was going counterclockwise around the sun. So a unit vector, though, traveling counterclockwise is always going to be pointing to the endpoint being on a unit circle, right? It would just be going around this way. Speed would change, right? The rate at which it goes around changes, but it keeps going this way. So what does U prime look like? Well, U prime is going to be then, the derivative of this U vector. Well, in other words, it's going to be a velocity vector for this thing, for the U vector, okay? Not the velocity of the planet, just the velocity vector for this U vector here. Well, that's got to be moving in the direction perpendicular, in the direction of the motion, which is perpendicular then to the U vector, because the U vector ends up being a radius for the unit circle. And so then we've got to have the U prime vector tangent to the circle, and the only way to do that is through perpendicular. So U and U prime are perpendicular. So to do this cross product now, in the parentheses, U cross U prime, well, first of all, any vector is the same, so we can take the U vector and we can just slide it out here. So we've got the two tails, U and U prime, tail to tail. Now this is interactive part of the video. You've got to do your right-hand rule onto the screen. U cross U prime, your right-hand rule should be, your thumb should be pointing at you out of the screen, okay? So that inner cross product that we have here, this is out of the screen, right? Or another way of saying it, it's out of the direction, or out of the plane that the planet's moving in, okay? And so now what's U here cross this new vector out of the screen going to be? Well, that's going to be another right-hand rule you're going to have to do. Line up your right hand, U cross with this vector coming out of the screen. Well, that should be a vector pointing on this picture up and to the right. In fact, it's got to be exactly the opposite direction of the U prime vector we have on here. It should be right here. Move that out of the way. Okay, so it's right there. That's what that vector is. Now it has to be a unit length vector, because everything we're doing here is unit length. That is, you cross product a bunch of unit length vectors, they give you unit length vectors. Okay, so this whole thing that we just did turns out to simplify to be negative U prime. So we'll plug that into the work we were doing up here, right? And so we get this to be negative GM times negative U prime. So we can now conclude here that our A cross H vector is just going to be A cross H equals this, well, now the negative times the negative makes a positive, GM U prime. And we'll use that then in the next video.